Hello gamers, this is Si and welcome back to Which Way Games. What's the best course of action when being pursued by a rocket? And with that being said, let's get on with the video. When it comes to classic arcade games, there have been many that have come and gone over the years, each tantalising gamers with various styles of gameplay, from driving with classics such as Outrun and Spy Hunter, going all the way to fighting with Turtles in Time and my favourite, Street Fighter 2. But one style of gameplay that is as popular as the others is a shoot 'em up. Gamers could either wield guns and shoot on-screen enemies with games like Terminator 2 and Time Crisis, which are fun, but there's one game that stood out among the other shoot 'em ups and is still regarded as one of the best of the arcade. This would be the classic arcade series known as Afterburner, which for some is almost as good as Outrun, so let's go back to where it all started. Development began shortly after the release of the classic Outrun, with Yu Suzuki back in the driving seat. Looking back on the success of previous games, Suzuki looked towards the skies and the endless possibilities this playground could provide. At the time, things that were popular were fast cars, hot women, big hair and fighter jets. You couldn't get more 80s than that. Knowing that the sprite scaling technique used in Outrun and Hang On had proved successful with gamers, Suzuki knew exactly how gameplay would turn out. Now, Yu Suzuki has always been one of those developers that's a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to making new games. So I do wonder how his research went when he was making Afterburner.
Hey boss.
So tell me, how did the trip to the airbase go?
Yeah, it was good, especially flying the F-14 Tomcat, although I still feel a bit sick.
I'm not surprised. Who else could stomach flying through the air at breakneck speeds?
Oh god, don't remind me.
I mean, just think of all those loop-the-loops, barrel rolls, spinning in the air, and fighting all manners of G-force.
I'm gonna be sick.
Was it something I said? Oh well. Afterburner hit arcades in 1987, wowing gamers with its great gameplay and the fantastic arcade machine it found itself in. This would be the deluxe model that I've had the pleasure of playing in. When I was younger, I jumped into the machine, and after about 20 minutes, my mum realised that an older gamer had left credits in there for me to play. Feeling that the original was missing some of that magic, Suzuki wanted to make a sequel of sorts, but still keep most aspects of the first game. However, Afterburner 2 was more of a reimagining than a replacement, with noticeable differences. The stage count was vamped from 18 to 22, more enemies were added, and finally, a throttle controllability that allowed gamers freedom of control over the plane's speed. Which is handy when slowing down, forcing enemies past you, then you can target them and blow them out the sky. With a few more minor tweaks here and there, and with a revamped soundtrack, Afterburner 2 was ready to be released. And come late 1987, Afterburner 2 hit arcades for fans of fighter jets to play. And like always, let's go back to the past to see how Afterburner 2 was advertised.
Afterburner, a game so exciting you can imagine you're in for the fight of your life. Game and accessories sold separately. Get ready. Afterburner gives you the real dogfight excitement of the arcade version. Yeah. Like barrel rolls, nosedives, supersonic speed, and radar lock-ons.
Your turn to burn. Let's take it home.
Afterburner, only on the Sega system. Sega, the challenge will always be there.
Now, Afterburner 2 doesn't actually have a story, but if it did, it might go something like this. The story of Afterburner 2 begins in the late 70s, where a war has caused havoc thanks to the evil army of chaos, who want nothing more than worldwide destruction. The United States Air Force has sent some of their best pilots to deal with this invasion, and now it's up to a pair of hotshots to change the tide of war. Major Guile, alongside his friend First Lieutenant Charlie Nash, lead the cause, and after many brushes with death, they finally put a stop to the army and their evil leader General Red. On the return mission home, Charlie is shot down and is declared killed in action, despite Guile knowing full well that Charlie survived the crash. Several years later, in the mid-80s, the evil dictator's returned, but under the new name of M. Bison, and is now the leader of the evil Shadaloo army. Ready to take revenge, M. Bison begins his attack in a bid to take over the world one more time. The United States Air Force have given Guile orders to stop Shadaloo and take down M. Bison once and for all. So Guile takes to the skies in his F-14 Tomcat in order to stop M. Bison and hopefully find his missing friend Charlie despite the consequences.
Gameplay has gamers piloting an F-14 Tomcat, shooting down enemies, speeding over terrain and saving the world.
Starting out, gamers witness the F-14 Tomcat leaving its base and taken to the skies in this on-rail shooter classic from the arcade. Throughout gameplay, gamers will hear target locked when enemies come flying towards them. And upon hearing this, gamers can fire heat-seeking rockets that will meet their targets most of the time. As gamers progress through Afterburner 2, the terrain below will change from open water to villages found deep in the jungle, and even through to rocky canyons with enemy bases found within. And for eagle-eyed gamers who are fans of Yu Suzuki, the Ferrari from Outrun even makes an appearance at some point in the game.
Clearly a Speedwagon took a wrong turning, but who doesn't love driving a Ferrari with a fighter jet speeding past?
What's fantastic about Afterburner 2 is the warning system when gamers are locked on by enemies. The cockpit of the arcade would flash red and gamers will have to make a choice. Either evade enemy fire or pull back on the throttle to bring the enemy into view. But if gamers aren't quick thinking, then they'll witness the Tomcat explode and crash land into the terrain below.
When released, Afterburner 2 was highly praised by gamers and critics, with some gamers even queuing for hours just to play this fantastic game.
The combination of high speed as well as addictive gameplay and fantastic music is just few of the reasons that make Afterburner 2 such a hit with gamers. And not to mention the similarities with another fantastic game from the arcade known as Space Harrier.
Eventually, Afterburner 2 would be ported to various gaming systems, especially those that come from Sega.
Being a faithful port, very much like Outrun, games were able to live the action of the arcade at home. There was even a version of Afterburner 2 for the Sega Master System that, despite its limitations, was able to pull off some of the technical wizardry from its 16-bit cousin, the Sega Mega Drive.
The Afterburner series would go on a bit of hiatus until the release of Afterburner Climax in the arcades, 3 years after Outrun 2.
Afterburner Climax would follow the same style of gameplay from the original games, but with updated graphics and 2 new aircraft for gamers to soar through the sky with. And proving to be such a hit with gamers, a follow-up called Afterburner Black Falcon would appear on the PSP, but didn't quite capture the magic of the originals.
The feeling of speeding past terrain and shooting down enemies is probably why the Afterburner series is loved by gamers all over the world.
Overall, Afterburner 2 is fun and addictive game to play, providing the right type of challenge for gamers with its difficulty spikes that only add to the experience of this arcade gem. For some, Afterburner 2 may be a product of the 80s, but who doesn't love flying in an F-14 Tomcat, gunning down enemies and saving the day? Perhaps in time, Sega will return to this classic arcade series, and who knows, maybe a certain Ferrari will make an appearance. As for now, let's continue to enjoy this arcade classic from history alongside some others.
Anyway, come back next time where a legendary fighting tournament has returned, but how is Cyan connected to Shadaloo, and can Ryu avoid the temptation of the Dark Ado? Thank you so much for watching, and see you next game.
You